Posting to the General Ledger, Lesson 9. You should have done exercise 4.9 yourself by now. When you are marking it, give yourself the tick allocation as you can see over here on the slides so that you can see how you would have done in the test. When you're doing the exercise, please make sure that you did do it by first posting all the totals from the trial balance and only then posting the information from the journals before balancing and totaling each account. However, to make it easier for you to mark, I am marking account by account. But please realize this is definitely not the most effective way of actually completing the exercise. The capital account is an owner's equity. On the credit side, you would have 2011 March the 1st, balance brought down 260,000 to get a tick. On the second, bank will earn a tick. It's from CRJ 4, 25,000 will earn a tick. Your subtotal as a method mark is 285,000. Drawings decreases equity, and so you would have shown the balance brought down as 25,000 on the debit side, tick. Land and buildings is an asset. Assets have a debit balance, which is why you would show it on the debit side. Balance brought down is 250,000, tick. Equipment is also an asset and so also has a debit balance of 25,000, tick. On the 11th, you would have an entry which is a contra account of bank, tick, from the cash payments journal of 2,200, tick, and have a subtotal of 27,200 for a method mark. Notice that the date is the 11th as it's a sundry account that you posted and it would have been posted on the day that it happened. Trading stock has a debit balance on the debit side of 10,000, tick. You would have then posted from the cash receipts journal onto the credit side as the CRJ indicates the stock that you sold. So the 8,800 is the total of the cost of sales column from the cash receipts journal. You get one tick for showing the 8,800 and a second tick for showing your details as cost of sales. On the debit side again, you would enter the amount from the cash payments journal where you bought stock. If you buy stock, your asset is increasing, and so you would show 11,200 on the debit side, tick. The contra account is bank, tick. Notice that for these entries, you used the date as the 31st. This is because you were posting totals, which would only be able to happen at the end of the month. Once you've entered all the transactions, you would then total this account to work out the balance. On the debit side, your total is 21,200, and since this is larger than the amount of stock that went out, not surprisingly, you show this as your total on both sides. On the credit side, you need to fill in the missing amount, and that indicates that there's 12,400 rands worth of stock left over, and so this is shown below the totals on the debit side as April the 1st, balance brought down. You can get a method mark for that. In other words, as long as you did your balancing correctly by taking your debit balance as the total, showing it on both sides and working out the missing figure, you can get the mark. Even if you posted something incorrectly or entered one of the transactions on the wrong side. The bank account has a credit balance from the trial balance. You could actually see it because it told you it was a credit. This indicates bank is an overdraft. So you would show the 6,000 on the credit side, tick. From the cash receipts journal, you would have posted the bank total onto the debit side of the bank account, 40,000, tick. Your date is 2011 March the 31st as it's a total, and your details sundry accounts, tick, as it's a lot of other accounts involved and you don't feel like writing them all out. Your reference is CRJ 4. On the credit side of the bank account, you will show the entry from the cash payments journal 14550, tick, and you would then show the details as sundry accounts again, tick, as there are lots of other accounts involved. Obviously, the money you received increases this asset account, and so it is debited, and the money that you spent from the cash payments journal decreases the account, and so it is credited. You then look to see which side has the most money. Notice not the most entries, but rather the largest value. Obviously 40,000 is bigger than approximately 20,000 on the credit side, so you will use the debit side as the amount for the totals and put 40,000 in the totals on both sides with a line above and below. On the credit side, you will fill in the missing figure of 19450, which you simply calculate as 40,000 minus 6,000 and also minus 14,550. On April the 1st, you would show the debit balance brought down of 19450. Again, this is worth a method mark. The sales account has a credit balance of 120,000 as it's an income account that increases equity. You would have posted the column from the cash receipts journal. The contra account is bank, tick, and the amount of 13,200, tick. Your subtotal is a method mark and should be 133,200. Cost of sales has a debit balance as it's an expense that is decreasing equity of 80,000 Rand. You would have then posted the cost of sales column from the cash receipts journal. The amount of 8,800 will go on the debit side. The contra account is trading stock, and this would also show that the amount is also in the trading stock account on the credit side. You earn a tick for your details of trading stock and a tick for the amount of 8,800. Your subtotal is 88,800. Rent income has a credit balance brought down of 18,000, tick, as it is an income increasing equity. You would then enter the sundry account entry on the 27th of 1,800, tick, with your contra account as bank, tick, as it was posted from the CRJ. You can give yourself a mark for the subtotal of 19,800 as long as you added your amounts correctly, even if one of them was wrong. The wages account has a debit balance brought down on the 1st of March of 7,000, tick. This is because it's an expense which decreases equity. On the 31st, you would have posted the total from the CPJ, bank, tick, and the amount of 800, tick, both on the debit side. The subtotal should be 7,800 and is worth a method mark. Repairs is also an expense which decreases equity, and so you would enter the balance brought down of 2,000 on the debit side, tick. You would enter the total of the repairs which is in the sundry accounts on the 23rd of 350 Rand on the debit side. Bank is the details, worth a tick, and the amount of 350 is worth a tick. Subtotal should be 2350 for a method tick. Administrative expenses are obviously expenses as the name implies, and so you would enter the balance brought down of 5,000 on the debit side as well. This is worth 1 mark. Once you've finished marking all the accounts themselves, go back and check your dates. Did you do the dates correctly? If all your dates are perfect, you can earn another tick. If one is wrong, however, you will lose this mark. The same for the folios. Check that you entered your folios correctly. In other words, the brought down and carried down, or CRJ4 or CPJ4, depending on where the entry was. In the trial balance, you will get a mark for indicating that it's the balance sheet section, as this is what it was shown, or you could say the statement of financial position section, which is the terminology we use more these days. Capital is a credit of 285,000, drawings 25,000 debit, land and buildings debit 250,000, equipment debit 27,200, trading stock debit 12,400, and bank debit 19,450. Each of these entries is worth a tick. Nominal account section or the statement of income account section is worth a mark. Sales is a credit of 133,200, tick. Cost of sales, debit 88,800, tick. Rent income, 19,800, tick on the credit side. Wages, debit 7,800, tick. Repairs, 2350, tick. Administrative expenses, debit 5,000, tick. Also make sure that all your folio entries are correct, B1, B2, etc., and N1, N2, etc. If you've done that correctly, you can give yourself a mark for your folio entries. You can then check that your totals are correct. Your method mark here is simply for adding your columns. You should arrive at a total of 438,000 in both the debit and the credit columns. However, if you'd made a mistake somewhere, your totals might not be correct and certainly might not even be the same. If this is the case, do not force them to be the same, but rather show them as different, as this indicates that there is a problem and this is what you are trying to achieve. If you force them or make them the same, you're not actually doing what the purpose of a trial balance is trying to do. Give yourself a mark out of 60 for the entire formative assessment. You can now go on to exercise 4.10. In exercise 4.10, you are given transactions and journals in which to complete the transactions. From that, you will then use trial balance figures and the journals you created to complete the general ledger accounts. In other words, this is a consolidation exercise of everything you have learned so far in Chapter 4.